everything that comes into our facility is recycled 100%.
Everyone in Thailand is concerned about sustainability.
This hotel is making it so these forests can regenerate.
Welcome to Save My Planet. I'm Stephen Brooks. Being green often comes down to the choices we make, but it also has to do with the opportunities that we have. For some people, living green just isn't an option. Here in Costa Rica, there's a lot of folks who understand that protecting the environment and developing local communities goes hand in hand, but we'll talk about that later. First, have you ever stopped to think about all the electronic waste we generate? From cell phones to computers, it can really pile up. And some of those pieces are full of nasty toxins you don't want to put in a landfill. But that e-waste isn't junk. There are plenty of recyclable parts in our old electronics. It's just a matter of getting them into the right pipeline.
EPA studies indicate that approximately 2.9 million tons of electronic wastes are generated per year.
People in the U.S. dispose of their electronic waste through just throwing it in a trash can. Unfortunately, a lot of the consumers don't know that there's so many hazards involved with throwing these materials away.
Today, the average lifespan of a laptop computer is anywhere from 18 to 24 months. A lot of electronic wastes have hazardous components, whether it's lead solder or mercury or bromides that might be in plastics as a fire retardant. Those are materials that you typically do not want placed in a landfill.
It's going to ultimately impact our water supply, or it's going to impact our air. It's going to impact how we live our lives. If you go home today and you look around your house, anything you can plug into a wall or has batteries in it can either go in a landfill, with some of the dangerous toxins in those products, or it can be reused again.
The mission at Intercon is making sure that electronics and anything that can be recycled is recycled.
We concentrate on demanufacturing of electronic equipment. We break it down into its raw material components.
We recycle every component of every material that comes into our facility.
Literally 100% of what's contained in a piece of electronic equipment can be recycled.
100% of electronics can be recycled. That's great news for the planet. But first, they need to be taken apart to get to the raw material.
The biggest problem with e-waste is that you have a bunch of different recyclable products that are mixed together. So that then makes it a waste product. If you separate those items, you're simply talking about a recyclable product at that point.
So each one of these panels was the back of a plasma TV. In that TV, there were various, there's mercury switches, there's glass, there's plastics, there's copper, there's all kinds of different materials that have a value if it's all taken apart.
First off, we detag all monitors, serial numbers, customer information.
When our staff breaks down these handheld electronics, they basically grade them by type as they're breaking them down. So there's a box of plastic. If we go over another box, this is a precious metal bearing product, and this would actually be a printed circuit board that contains a certain amount of precious metal bearing products, like gold or silver, that we're going to reclaim and recycle. As a whole item, this leaded printed circuit board makes this drive non-recyclable. As we take it apart and more or less demanufacture, we're then turning it into those raw metals and materials the drive once was when it was being manufactured.
We definitely want to keep those valuable materials out of the landfill, but we also want to keep our precious data out of harm's way.
The data security issues that are out there are huge for consumers, huge for corporations. I mean, every consumer's PC has social security numbers, personal information. Every one of these platters basically represents hard drives that we've taken apart here in Intercon. This is where all the data is. Now we run these platters through another machine called a disintegrator to then be demanufactured all the way down to raw metal value.
We have the broke down aluminum drives. They are put into the disintegrator. They're ground up in here. They come right down the conveyor line, and voila, you have the ground up aluminum hard drives.
A lot of different products come back out of what we demanufacture and turn into raw metals and materials here at Intercon.
And it's used its feedstock for downstream American manufacturers who make products out of that.
We found an outlet to use every piece of it in domestic manufacturing.
To make electronics, to make plastic goods, automotive parts, to make buildings. It's absolutely inspiring to see what happens.
Iron-based material actually goes into downtown Chicago building projects. So I can tell you that the Trump Tower has a certain amount of RE waste in that building.
Businesses aren't the only ones that can get in on the action. Individuals like you and me can recycle our e-waste too.
I think the biggest obstacle that we're faced with is educating the community, educating society. There's a huge amount of electronics out there that needs to be recycled properly. I think a lot of people have been storing a lot of e-waste.
Sometimes, if you have a computer sitting in your basement and you don't know where to go, it just ends up sitting there.
In general, the public's looking for, some assistance. And so they're looking to companies like ours to provide that assistance.
And the neat thing about the last couple years is seeing people actually get behind what we're doing. And now all of a sudden, the tree hugger that I used to be is now the cool guy that's trying to save the environment.
My biggest concern is as a father, as someone who's involved in the community, is to make sure that our groundwater is safe, that our environment isn't being poisoned, that there aren't toxins in the air.
That's kind of the cool thing about it all is, when you look at it as something that's to be broken down and completely reclaimed, it's cool.
It's totally cool and so easy to do. When we come back, we'll travel to Thailand and meet a man who's converting old shipping containers into sleek new homes. Talk about repurposing.